what up? Welcome back to the solar system series known as Have You Thought About It This Way? Where we talk about the most detail-oriented sign of this ecliptic, known as Virgo. Now today we're going to be talking about Jupiter in Virgo. So, Jupiter in Virgo, Jupiter in Virgo, Jupiter in Virgo. So, let's talk about Jupiter a little bit before we get into the sign. Then, as you know, we usually do, we just combine the two and break it down like an equation, you know what I'm saying? So, what is Jupiter? Jupiter is the planet of expansion through experience, right? Now, expansion through experience can gain you a lot of different things. It can gain you knowledge and wisdom over a certain topic. You can gain a lot of meanings and reasonings over a certain topic. And it's basically because this is the planet of you sort of gaining your understanding over a certain subject. Now, an understanding can lead to a lot of different things. Once you gain your understanding of it, you can combine the two and have an overstanding, where you can basically talk the talk and walk the walk, which combined is knowledge and wisdom. You feel what I'm saying? Now, you know, whether you gain the understanding or the understanding first is, you know, it's anyone's guess, you know. You could be more mercurial, you could be more spiritual, who knows what you're going through, you know. That's based off of all your other alignments, you know what I'm saying? But aside from that, the way I kind of like to explain how people experience their Jupiter sign in today's day and age is through Netflix or YouTube, where you basically binge watch a series without even thinking about what has happened, you know what I'm saying? So, for instance, a lot of people nowadays could have binge watched The Tiger King because it's just so crazy, and the emotion and feeling that you're chasing, which is basically your Jupiterian energy, is what's going to happen next. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's basically how it works. Another way you could do it is basically through, you know, House of Cards. You know, now that Avatar's back on the freaking back on Netflix in the first place, you know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, people could be like, oh my god, you know, Atla is what they're calling, you know, and people kind of mistake it for they're watching Atlanta or something. But, yeah, you know, people could be capturing the emotion of nostalgia for their childhood, where they're now in a space and location again, where all they can do is just watch TV to entertain themselves. So, hey, childhood nostalgia, there you go, Avatar: The Last Airbender. But basically, you know, what happens with Jupiter is that regardless of the emotion that you pick and choose to dive into and indulge and basically expand in a certain experience, what you're doing is expanding. You're not necessarily diving deep all the time, but what you're doing is just, you know, you're just going to see how far this emotion and perspective can take you. I mean, yeah, emotion, feeling, as well as perspective can take you. And whatever the emotion is or feeling is that actually gets you to do it is anyone's guess. The result is always you expanding into that direction. You feel what I'm saying? So now when we place this in Virgo, this is where it gets, you know, it's kind of at work, because Virgo's sort of expands into what's practical, and it sort of does like, oh, okay, people have gone through this experience before, so maybe I'll like it, you know, and it sort of negates the whole point of what Jupiter's trying to do, is gain your understanding, you know. So when you basically plant a seed using this Virgo alignment, you're basically like, you may have a good experience from an intellectual perspective, but the whole time you might be planting bad seeds for this expansion. And that's Jupiter and Virgo in a nutshell, you know. It's kind of just like, why are you doing that? And not the Jupiter and Virgo person specifically, but when you look at a Jupiter and Virgo person sort of expanding in a direction. But anyways, before we get into all that, let's break down the alignments of Virgo. So, Virgo is born from the 6th house, which is the work process in general. Virgo is the mutable earth sign, which means it's adaptable and changeable to different ways of thinking and practicality, and it is ruled by Mercury, as well as kind of being exalted. It is away in Jupiter as well as Neptune, and then it falls in the planet of Venus, the planet of love-reaching values, as well as how you relate to others. Relating to others. Have fun with that, Virgo. Watch my video on that. Yeah, you'll get an idea after that, you know what I'm saying? So, now back to the traits of talking about a Jupiter and Virgo person. These people basically expand into whatever they deem is, you know, necessary, what's practical to them, what they think will be enjoyable to them, you know. But basically, remember, they have to unwind the whole process of thinking this will be enjoyable for them, and remember that this is a feeling thing, you know. You don't just expand into anything off the bat, you know. Maybe if you actually do, like, say, walk through a bookstore or something, you're like, oh, this book's good. This will be useful from a Jupiter and Virgo perspective. This would probably go as, oh, this book is useful to my experience, you know. Freaking plumbing for dummies. Pipes are right here. Oh, maybe I should expand into this. You know what I'm saying? But you have to remember, the whole point of Jupiter is to expand into your own understanding of a subject, your own wisdom and knowledge, your own experience with that subject. Why it's expansion through experience, you know? So this is where Virgos sort of get the mishap of being like, oh, okay, this is what I need to expand to do right now because this is practical. You know what I'm saying? And this is sort of why, like, when it's taken from such a philosophical and, like, sort of esoteric point of view, that when people look at Jupiter and Virgo people expanding into these situations, they're like, what? Why are you doing that? And they may have a thoughtful answer of being like, oh, this, and this. And you're just like, yeah, you know, I feel what you're saying, man. I get where you're coming from. But, like, why? You know what I'm saying? And then the same thing can happen vice versa for Jupiter and Virgo people looking out at people. They're just like, why are you expanding into that? Why are you expanding into that? Oh, just because you felt that it was interesting? That makes no sense. Why would you do that, you know? They may not necessarily say that to a person, but they'll think that in the back of their mind, and then basically when they go back into their own space, and they're just like, you know, that person's fucking crazy, doing this, and this, just because they felt it. Why would you do that? They totally have this, and this going on, you know? Freaking, they went to college and student debt, you know, that you can't get rid of that. That's non-forgivable. You have to pay that off. So why are you just going on vacations everywhere just because you like the idea of expanding into, you know, expanding into your own awareness of, like, what's in the greater world around you and expanding your perspective that way? That's crazy. You can do that when you paid off your debts, you know? This is how a Jupiter and Virgo person sort of thinks, to where it's just like, yes, they can expand into what's necessary and important for them, but it's sort of like, you know, when it comes to just catching the vibe and catching a wave, that's where it becomes work. That's where there's the block. That's where there's the, do I have to feeling comes in. And it won't necessarily be like the, do I have to always. It'll just be, it won't be like that. It'll come from more of a place of internal awareness, to where it's like, why would I do that? You know, that doesn't make sense. And then if there's like, you know, overpowering of the group, and they sort of like are in the space of trying to want to relate to others, it may work that way, but it won't necessarily happen off the bat. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why Jupiter and Virgo people are in that space of where they just work on what's practical in a second, they'll expand into what they want to in a second, they'll expand into the meanings and reasonings behind why they have to fix this plumbing situation after they do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, it just gets weird because it's like, Virgo is at work here, so when it's in Jupiter, Jupiter's trying to do all of its things to where it's like, hey man, I'm placing all these situations in front of you to where you can just dive into something that you may actually enjoy, but Virgo's sitting back being all like, hey, you know, there's a leak here, I don't want sewage in my house, which is a very good reason, but that's not the point. You know, being in the work process all the time may be what you feel life has to be, but it's not what life's about. What Jupiter's trying to get you to do is that it's just trying to show you that life can be way more things than just actually working on your own experience and making your own little spot and your own situation and your own abilities more efficient. It's more than that. Now, when Virgos sort of kind of catch onto this lesson and start getting into the space of, here, this is what they should do, you know, they may sort of have a steep learning experience because because they like sort of catch on to the feeling that this feels good, this is something I should do. You know, they may walk into a Jupiter in retrograde situation to where it's sort of like, oh, you do love this? Just because you love this doesn't necessarily mean that's the direction your life should go, you know, because Jupiter and Virgos, Jupiter and Virgo people are sort of stuck on like learning those feelings, learning appreciation, learning all that. So by the time they actually catch on to this situation, it gets weird because they're in this space of like, oh, I thought I should do this, but then it doesn't work. And they just don't know the feeling of like, oh, I like this is what I should do, and they can't differentiate between, oh, okay, this is what, this may not be right for me because I don't feel it in myself, you know? It's like they're focusing on it. It's sort of like they're focusing on an external feeling rather than their own internal feeling, you know? Because they live in this space of they're so just like, it's just so predicated on like the thought and the practicality of the situation rather than the feeling. So when they get into the feeling, they don't have that ability to differentiate the internal versus the external, which Jupiter basically will, you know, walk them through it because they may go through the experience of actually going off of a feeling, and if it is an external feeling, it may slap them in the face and be something bad, but what they have to pay attention to is that they have to learn that maybe, well, see, this is where it may go down the line and like it'll sort of kick the can of learning this experience a lot longer than it needs to be, because they'll be like, oh, I paid attention to my feelings, and then it didn't work out well, so next time an internal feeling does come, they may not listen to it, not listen to it, not listen to it. So then it'll be like, they may actually need somebody to slap them upside the head and be like, here, this is what you did wrong, this is what you did wrong, now don't get stuck in the, oh, feelings don't work when you're working through a feeling sign, you know what I'm saying? But this is why astrology is important, so you can break it down into the alignments that are, attuned to your situation right here, and not focusing on your physical ecliptic and be like, oh damn, this is what happened, and then you can actually just kick these feelings out of here, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it for now. Let's talk about the alignments that led me to these conclusions so you can break it down for yourself, right? So Jupiter is the planet of expansion through experience, and via expansion through experience, you will gain wisdom, knowledge, and your own meanings and reasonings towards the situations you're going into. You feel what I'm saying? Now, with this placed in Virgo, Virgo is at work here. And because, so let's talk about Virgo a little bit. Virgo is just the work process in general. That's what the overarching influence that it was born from. And then it is also a mutable earth, which means it's adaptable and changeable to different ways of thinking and practicality, along with it being ruled by the planet Mercury. It's away in this planet Jupiter as well as Neptune, and then it falls in Venus. This is why Virgos need to actually go through the learning process of experiencing that when you're expanding through situations, it's not always about the thinking and practicality, and that they may have a tough time at work when they differentiate between the feelings of, oh, this just feels good, and then, oh, okay, this is actually what's right for me. I'm really feeling this experience, and I want to keep it moving in a proper way that will actually expand my own understanding outside of what's practical and necessary for the situation. Anyways, thanks for following the solar system series known as Have You Thought About It This Way, where we talk about the most detailed oriented sign in this ecliptic, Virgo. Anyways, peace.